So here we are in our skin shop. Right now I don't have any gold with me. You can see that these different skins, they cost 1, 2 and 3 gold separately. If I hit play, I can collect some coins to increase the amount of gold that I have. And if I close the game and start again, that means we are on a different playthrough, but you can see that the amount of gold gets saved. And I can now spend it on this red skin, and it says equip skin, and now my amount of gold has changed. And I can play with it. If I close and start again, you can see that the red skin doesn't say buy anymore, it immediately says equip it. I can press it once, the amount of gold doesn't change, and here I am again with a red skin. I can of course buy a different skin for a different price, equip it, and now play with that skin. Hi, I'm Ricky. If you haven't watched part 1 of this 3D skin shop tutorial, make sure you do now. And remember, you can always download my projects from Github, and you can also join my Discord channel if you need some help with your games. All links in the description. Alright, so let's start. This skin shop is missing something very important, being able to buy our skins. Right now we can equip them, but we don't have a money system, so we can't really buy them. So we want to make a player money script. But we want to be very careful where we put it. Let's go in our main scene, that is the first scene that we load in our game. In our case it's skin shop. And let's make a new empty game object for your player money. In this empty game object, let's make a player money script. We want to use this script to buy the skins in the shop, but we also want to add money to the player when we are in our actual game. Let's open player money and see how to do that. For now, let's just make a serialized value for money. It's important that this value is serialized and not public. We'll see why later. Let's go back to Unity. We want this value, current money, to be saved in between scenes. To do so, we're gonna use don't destroy on load, which is a function that makes a game object that we want preserved through scene loading. To do this, let's make a new component to player money, and I'm gonna call it don't destroy on load this GO, where GO stands for game object. Let's open it, and in here on awake, so as soon as the game starts, we say don't destroy on load game object. We want to call the function, and as a target game object, we put our own game object. We can already test this. I'm gonna put 2 units of money to our player money script, and now if we change scene, you see that our script is still here, and we still have our money units. If you look in the hierarchy, you will see that our scene is now divided in 2. One for our normal scene, and one for our don't destroy on load game objects. And right now, the only game object that we don't destroy is player money. We can put this script that we just made on as many game objects as we want. For example, if I want to use scene functions in another scene, I can add don't destroy and load this geo. And now if we hit play, you can see that our scene has already divided the game objects to not destroy, and if we hit play, they're still here. We don't care about scene function being preserved in the second scene, so I'm gonna remove this component. Let's add a way to add money to the player through game actions. So let's go in our level, and I'm gonna make a coin that the player is able to collect in order to add money. So I'm gonna create a new sphere, name it coin, and make it yellow just to make it a bit more clear. I'm also gonna change the collider from is trigger false to true, and now inside this new coin game object, I'm gonna make and add a new component called coin. Again, it's not essential that you name your scripts the same way you name your game object. You of course can't do that all the time, but just for clarity, it makes sense to name something coin inside a game object coin, because after all they serve the same purpose. Let's open coin. Inside the script, we want to detect when the player enters the coin. We're gonna do that through the onTriggerEnter function. This collider other value that we get is the collider that enters the coin. We want to know whether that collider is the player's or if it's an enemy's. And of course, if it's an enemy that enters a coin, we don't want to do anything. We want to collect a coin only if a player touches it. So we check for the collider's tag. And for now, let's just throw a debug log to see if it works. Let's go back to Unity. And now we need to do 2 things. First, we need to assign the player's tag to the player. But right now you can see that our player is actually divided in 2. We have one game object for the player's logic and another game object for the player's skin. We want to set the player's tag to the collider that hits the coin. In our case, the player logic has no colliders inside, but the default skin has a caps circle ladder. So we want to set the tag to the model. Now the problem is that we don't have a single model, we have 3. Instead of going one by one and changing the tag on all of these prefabs, let's instead make worth of these prefab variants. If you remember, hat skin and red skin, they are both prefab variants of the full skin. So we can actually just open the full skin and set this main prefab to tag player. And now the prefab variants also have their tag changed. The second thing is we need a way to actually enter the coin. Right now in the player's logic, I made a player movement script, which is very simple and does its job, but it doesn't use the physics system. It doesn't use a rigid body. If you move game objects using transform position, you are not gonna register collisions. To register collisions, you must use a rigid body. As a fact, if we test it now, you can see that I enter the coin, but nothing happens. I'm gonna instead add a rigid body to the player. I froze the rotation just so we don't fall over. And now in the player movement script, I'm gonna change this code to use a rigid body. You can of course choose your own way to move your player as long as you use a rigid body. This is a placeholder code just to move the player. This is not the focus of this tutorial. Alright, and now if I play, we now move with a rigid body, and if we enter the coin, we get a message in the console, which means we've successfully collided with a coin. Let's go back to the coin script, and now that we have a way to detect when the player collides with a coin, we just wanna add money to the player. We have a player money script, but right now we don't have a way to add money. So let's make a new public function called add money. And as the parameter's name suggests, we also want to know how much money to add. Then it's very simple, we just say current money plus equal money amount to add. We could have just used a public value to change current money, but we're gonna add some other things inside add money, so you see later why we are doing this. Now into coin, we need a reference to player money and call the add money function. There are multiple ways to get a reference to a certain script. For now, let's just use find object of type, and maybe in another episode we see a better way of doing this. I've put 1 as a fixed value for the amount of money that we're gonna add, but you can of course make a new value inside this coin, make it public or serialized, and have different coins that add different amounts of money. But that's not important now. For now, we need a way to actually make this code work, because right now we're using find object of type to find the player money script, but in our scene there is no player money script. In fact, if we hit play now and try to collect the coin, we're gonna get an error because of course there is no player money script inside the scene. That's because we're trying to play the game in a non-natural way. Normally the game starts from scene 0, and scene 0 is the skin shop. In the skin shop we have the player money, and this script's game object is not going to be destroyed when we change the scene. So if we play the game organically, that means the way it's supposed to be played. Now we have a player money script in the scene, and if we collect the coin, you can see that our current money now increases by 1. So the final thing that we want for this coin is to destroy itself. This way it will really feel like we collected it. So now we have a way to add money to the player, but we still need a way to save that amount. Because we may close the game and reopen it at a later time and go to the skin shop, we want to save the amount of money that we made in the game so you can use it later to buy the skins. So in our player money script, we're gonna use PlayerPrefs. Let's save the amount of money that we made in a PlayerPref of type int. And let's get this value when we start the game. And as a key, I'm using pref money. Now if we play, by default we have 0 units of money. If I play and collect a coin, we now have 1. If I close and start the game on another playthrough, our current money gets set to 1. And now we can use this money to buy skins in a shop. And that's also why we don't use a public value for current money. That's because whenever we increase the amount of money, we also want to save that amount inside the PlayerPrefs. And before we go further, I'm just gonna duplicate this coin a bit, just so we can make some more money in the future. Alright, and now that we have a money system, we can actually buy our skins. we're gonna do this in the skin panel script. So let's go into Canvas, Shop panel, Skins panel, and let's select one skin panel and open the skin panel script. In here, instead of equipping the skin directly, we want to check whether the skin has been unlocked, and if so, we equip it. If it hasn't been unlocked, then we try to buy it. So let's make a new public void function that we're gonna call when we press the button. Let's make a new boolean value to hold whether the skin has been unlocked. And when we press the button, we check for it. If it is unlocked, then we just equip it. If it isn't, we try to buy it. Now, how do we actually try and buy a skin? Well, first, we want to remove some money from the player. So let's go into player money and let's make a new function to try and remove money. And we also give it a bool return value to tell whether the transaction was successful. So if our current money is major or equal than the money that we're trying to remove, then we remove it. And we also return true to tell that we successfully removed some money. If you don't have enough money though, we return false. And after we change the amount of money, let's also make sure to save it. So again, we save the amount of money with this function right here. Now back into skin panel, we can call player money, and again, we're going to use find object of type to find player money. And for the skin cost, we can make a new int value. And by default, I've set it to 1. If we manage to remove money from the player, then we just set isSkin unlocked to true. And if you don't have enough money, we don't do anything. For now, I'm just gonna throw a debug log in here to say that we have unlocked it. I'm also gonna throw one inside the equipSkin function to say that we've equipped it. And let's also open the skin panel prefab. And let's change the equipSkin button function from equipSkin to onSkin button press. And now if we hit play, we have 1 unit of money. If we try and buy the red skin, it says unlocked and our money is now 0. If we press it again, it's now equipped and we can play it. If I try and buy another skin, it doesn't say anything because we don't have enough money. If we hit play, we see that we have the red skin equipped. Alright, now we just need to save the fact that we bought a skin. Let's go back to skin panel and let's make a new enum where each value represents a different skin. So one for the full skin, one for the red, and one for the hat. And make sure to also make a new skin ID value. Now when we unlock a skin, so right here, we again use PlayerPrefs to save this value. In this case we want to save a boolean, so we just use an int and set it to 1. And as the key, we use the enum. And now when the game starts, we check for that PlayerPref, and if it is 1, we unlock the skin. Now this already works, but to get a more visual feedback, let's also change the text of the button to say whether we are trying to buy or equip the skin. I'm going to use TextMesh Pro, but you can of course use your normal text. I highly advise that you start using TextMesh Pro. If we manage to unlock the skin, we set the text to equip. And we do so again when we unlock the skin here. And now that we change the text, we can also remove the debug logs. And we're good to go. Let's also open our skin panel and let's drag in the button text reference. And now let's go in our skin panels one by one and set the enum. A full skin already has its value. The red skin should have a red skin value, and so on. And by default, let's also change the text from equip to buy skin. And I'm also gonna set the red skin cost to 2 and the hat skin to 3. I'm gonna do a quick test now. I'm gonna clear PlayerPrefs, hit play. By default, we can't buy anything. I'm gonna get some money. I got 3 units of money and they are preserved. And now I can buy the red skin, for example. So remove 2 units of money. Now I can equip it and play it. And if we restart, we still have it unlocked and I don't have to spend any money to equip it again. Perfect. Finally, let's add a way to show how much money the player has. So first I'm gonna make a new text. So I put a default value just to show how big we can make the money text, and the G stands for gold. Now we just need to take the player money's value and set it to this text. This may sound simple, we actually have to do a specific trick in order to achieve this. Let's open player money and let's add a text reference. And now when we change the amount of money, we just change the money text. You can see that we're actually repeating code a lot in here. Both this PlayerPref and this money text change, we are doing it twice in different functions. So let's actually make a new function. I've called it onMoneyAmountChange because we call it whenever we change the amount of money. So in here, when we add money, and also here when we remove money. And I've put the wrong name, sorry. And also when we set the money for the first time, so on awake. Let's drag in the reference. As long as we are inside the skin shop, it works. You can see that E perfectly represents the amount of money. But if we hit play, we still have the player money script, but now our reference text has gone missing because we don't have the money text inside the skin shop anymore. But if we wanted another money text in here that shows how much money we have, we can't do that right now. So let's actually close. And in our game level, I want to make a new text that shows the amount of money that we have. Instead of making a new one, we can actually just go back in the skin shop. We can actually just take the canvas, copy it, pass it in here, and now just keep the money text. I'm gonna put this in the top right. And now we need to put this reference into our player money script when we enter this scene. To do this, we're just gonna make a new script. So inside this money text scheme object, let's make another new component called player money display. In here, as soon as the scene loads, we find the player money script and we set its money text to this scheme object's text. And to do so, we first need to import text-pro. So now we change the reference of the text, now we just need to update it to when the scene loads. So instead of changing the money text directly, let's make a new function called change money text reference. And now we change the money text reference to the parameter. And then we change its text like we do here. And now in player money display, let's call this new function. And that's it. Let's go back to Unity and let's do a quick test of this money text. 0 gold. If I hit play, it's also 0 here, but you see it changes with the coins. Play again, and I have 2 golds here. I play, it's still 2 here. So I'll say that works. Yeah, and now we can display the money text in whatever scene we want, and we don't have to deal with the player money script. Alright, and I know that I said that that was the last thing, but let's also add a way to show how much a skin costs. That's going to be very simple. Let's go back to the skin panel script, and on awake, if a skin is unlocked, then we say keep skin, and that's fine. But if it is not unlocked, then we change the text based on the skin cost. Very simple. And I'm also gonna change the default text. Alright, and now if we hit play, yeah, buy for 1, buy for 3. Let me clear PlayerPrefs. Yeah, buy for 1, buy for 2, buy for 3. Let's get some money. I can buy this one. Now it says a keep. If I close and start again, it still says a keep. Perfect. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any doubts or any suggestions, do tell me in the comments. Remember that you can download this project for free from GitHub. You can also join my Discord channel if you need some help. And make sure to follow me on Twitter if you want updates on whatever I'm doing next. Right now I'm developing a new game for PC. It's called AA, and there's a teaser trailer and a gameplay video, all links in the description. And of course make sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell and all that stuff, and I'll see you next time. So yeah,